tuned in to the Politics Podcast, your home for St. Louis politics. What's going on, St. Louis? It's your boy Terry Wilson, and I'm back for another episode of the Politics Podcast. And as usual, we got another good guest joining in with us today. Be on the lookout for the August election. We got an August election coming up, August 3rd. It's one thing on your ballot if you're in St. Louis County. It's the St. Louis Community College Proposition R. It's a simple majority required, and it's for the purposes of updating career training programs to enable job growth in critical industries, including healthcare, information technology, financial services, and other services that they provide at St. Louis Community College. So make sure you all get some information on that. I'll be sure to post a website where you can get more information on that. But we got a great show today. I'm glad to be back. I had to take a week off, but you know, sometimes you just have to do that. So we are joined today with a very, very special guest, a senator, a state senator from the 14th District. His name is Brian Williams. I'm going to bring him in so y'all can see him. Let's see. All right. Let me see. All right, go ahead and unmute yourself. Senator Brian Williams, how you doing today, man?
You know, I'm good. Thanks for having me on. You know, they say you've never been on an official podcast until you've been on yours. So I'm excited for the conversation.
Yes, sir, man. Hey, this is the hottest show in the loop, man. But, you know, unlike other shows, man, you know, I wanted to make sure I created a platform where we can actually have a voice. The folks who they kind of, you know, roll over sometimes and we don't hear from them, man. I wanted to create a platform for the people right here down on the ground, something positive, so we can hear the positive things that's going on. And, of course, if some controversial things come up and the community needs to talk about it, we definitely will bring that here on the Politics Podcast, man. So that's what we're here for, man. And so I'm glad to have you here today, man. What's going on?
You know, it's a lot.
It is a whole lot.
You know, clearly, right now I'm focused on doing everything I can to ensure that the St. Louis region is you know, just reaching every level of potential it possibly can. Yeah. But I've spent the past several months in Jefferson City working in the Missouri Senate and really focusing on some really strong pieces of legislation that I'm so grateful and proud to have gotten across the finish line. And a couple weeks ago was signed by the governor.
Oh, definitely. We definitely go get it to that conversation, man. But before we get started, man, the folks that might not know who Brian Williams is, man, you have a great story, how you were getting your start in politics. And a lot of people think that Brian Williams just popped up on the scene, but Brian Williams had a story before he became senator. I think everything that you were doing was preparing you for this moment, brother. And one thing I want to say before we get into it, man, I'm proud of you and I'm proud of the work that you were able to do because, I mean, you literally hit the ground running, man. And so tell our listening audience, man, how your political career actually got started. And who is Brian Williams? I always give my guests an opportunity to let everybody know who they are, but just kind of cover how your political career got started leading up to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, just a kid that grew up in Ferguson, you know, to a single mom. I was the oldest of three children, you know, and I was very fortunate to have a village that really stepped in. My grandmother, who was the first African-American woman to get an international appointment as an auto worker.
Wow.
So my family was, you know, working class family, really involved in the unions. Really, my grandmother advocated for women and people of color to advance in the workforce. She worked at Chrysler and retired from there. My mom, same thing. You know, it's very humbling to be able to serve our state in the Senate. You know, being somebody that never really thought I would be doing what I'm doing today. Had an opportunity to work in the United States Congress, spent some time in Washington, D.C., worked on anything from the tail end of the Benghazi hearings to regulatory things around banks, making sure that they're not practicing predatory practices against everyday families, ensuring that we're maintaining a housed population where folks are not being put out their homes because they can't pay their mortgages. And then had an opportunity to come back to Missouri and oversee the rollout of the Affordable Care Act marketplace under President Obama's administration. And basically, that was something that was really important to me, Terry, because we see during this pandemic, it's more important now that folks have access to quality healthcare,
Absolutely.
especially poor and underserved communities and people that are just underinsured. So to be able to do that, and then clearly after working in that capacity for quite a few years, I asked my mom and grandmother, was it okay to run for state senate?
Mm-hmm.
And they said it was okay. They supported me, ran in a primary against two really good people, tremendous leaders that were state representatives, was very fortunate to be successful in that primary election. And that was in 2018. And here we are almost 3 years later, 2.5 years later. I serve as the assistant Democratic floor leader in the Missouri Senate. Have been able to focus on a myriad of things, whether it's advancing things around police reform and police accountability, criminal justice reform, ensuring that folks who may have made a mistake in their life have an opportunity to be model citizens. And then most importantly, figuring out how do we protect our seniors and give back to our youth, being involved in the school districts, advocating for quality education, ensuring that we really take every opportunity we can to ensure that communities like North St. Louis County thrive at the highest level possible.
Absolutely, man. Well, it seems like you got the proper training to be prepared to go up to Jeff City, man. And would you say all of those? So those various roles that you got an opportunity to work in working for the congressman, would you say that kind of help you build some of those meaningful relationships that you needed to be successful in your run for Senate, especially with it being, your first time running for a political office? At the end of the day, winning elections is all about building relationships and creating coalitions. And I think, you serving in that capacity early on, would you say that kind of helped, people already be familiar with you when you were out there asking for your vote?
100%. Even in the capacity that I was serving in, working with Congressman Clay, I started as an intern.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting my master's degree at Washington University,
Mm-hmm.
did an internship. We didn't even know each other. And I just really worked extremely hard to really get into a senior position within his office. So that taught me a lot about constituent services,
Yeah.
the importance of building relationships with local elected officials, and then really just understanding the true just commitment of public service. I got to see firsthand that it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really difficult serving the public because there's so many needs and there's so many demands that our community just needs to be where it should be and where it needs to be. So that was a very big piece. But again, as you stated, the relationship building was so important for me because it was so many people that I worked with and I helped and supported, not from a position of politics, but really trying to help them serve their community the best that they possibly could.
Right.
So I was grateful to be able to build a relationship where it wasn't about politics. It was about, hey, if you call Brian Williams and it's an issue pertaining to the federal government or whatever the case may be,
Mm-hmm.
we knew that he was reliable and somebody we can count on. And then just as a person, you and I have known each other for a very, very long time before either one of us knew what we would be doing today.
Right.
And I always took just great pride in just treating people the way I wanted to be treated.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And before we get into the policy aspect, because I know you got some things that you're definitely proud of, but I want to stick to the election real quick.
Right.
So this was your first run, But you have always campaigned, helping out elections. It was in your blood. Got the union background with the mom and the grandma.
Yeah.
Um, what did it feel like being on the side of elected versus not elected? Because before I became an elected official, on the outside looking in, always helping with campaigns, various campaigns. It feels different when you're not the ultimate person responsible for everything. So
Yeah.
now that you are an elected official, what's the difference between when you're on that side versus being on this side?
Well, it's a pretty big difference. Your name on the door.
Yeah.
So even if somebody make a mistake, or something doesn't turn out the way you want it to whether it's election night or an issue that you're focusing on in your office, helping people in the community, all they know is that Senator Brian Williams screwed that up.
Right.
So that's one big difference.
Yeah.
The other difference is that one thing I try to tell a lot of folks, especially folks younger than us that want to get into politics or policy or government, it's a very fulfilling but thankless job.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that it's about being on television or people saying really nice things about you. It's really about doing the work. And one thing that I learned once I was elected is that it was one thing I understood the importance and the needs of our community, but now I have to be able to take everything that I said I was capable of and actually put that into action. And it's people that really have that expectation for you because they exercise their constitutional right to get you there.
Yeah.
Or the people that didn't vote for you, they want to see whether or not you're worthy of getting their support in the future.
Right.
So, man, that was where the rubber hit the road for me. It was very, very different. But I think the one thing that always really kind of kept me in the right space in terms of just doing the job was that I knew I was committed to doing the work.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was committed to doing everything I could to ensure that our community, our region, and our state was in the best position it possibly could be. And then everything else was really just being a student to the process.
Man, that is amazing, man. I was having a conversation with one of the seniors, actually the apartment complex that you visited a few months ago in
Right.
Jennings, and one of the seniors that I'm real close with, Miss Lola, man, she said something to the effect, because I told her I was interviewing you, because she followed me on social media. I told her I was interviewing you, and she said, I really admire Senator Brian Williams because the same way he campaigned to get my vote is the same way he's governing as senator, man. And that really, really resonated. And she, of course she said, he ain't better than you, but I love both. I love both of y'all. But and she made similar comments to me as well. But I really do believe, man, as a public servant, man, that work you put in to get elected, you need to do equal work once you get elected.
That's just a prerequisite.
Yeah, for sure.
That's just what's required
Yeah.
to be able to serve. And I think that's the problem is that a lot of people think that campaigning is governing.
Right.
I was very fortunate to, in a very short period of time, to go to a supermajority Republican legislature.
Yeah.
Be able to talk about some of the most pressing issues to the Black community.
Yeah.
And be able to engage and have a constructive dialogue with people from all over the state who would never understand the challenges of being a Black man in America or being a Black woman in society.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that we were very grateful to be able to do with a phenomenal staff where we were able to pass one of the most comprehensive police reform bills in the history of the state, where we're banning chokeholds.
Absolutely.
We're making sure bad police officers are not coming to communities like Ferguson and Jennings and other communities where we've seen there's been a lack of trust between the community and the police. But we've also focused on another element. How do we provide law enforcement with tools to be able to effectively do their job when we all know that it's a high stress, difficult job?
Yeah.
So, for example, with Senate Bill 60 that I filed and passed into law, we give police officers the discretion when it comes to executing a warrant arrest. So now, if you're driving through St. Louis County and you may have got a municipal violation, nothing serious, traffic violation, something of that nature, a police officer now could say, "Hey, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to get that taken care of. You may be taking your kids to school. You may be going to work because you're trying to come up with the money to pay this
Right,
fine.
right.
But instead of taking them to jail and giving them more fines, we want police officers to, give people a chance, and allow them to right that mistake, other than just continuing to burden them with more debt and clearly their time with putting them in jail."
And that was gonna be my next question, man. So you were in a very difficult position as a senator. First off, you were a black man. You were a Democrat. You were from St. Louis. Uh, and you're a Kappa. So,
I
but
do that.
but how were you able to navigate around all of that adversity, man, and come up with this bill? It was SB 60, and get across to actually get it across the fin to get anything across the finish line in Jeff City as a Democrat is hard in itself. But explain to the audience, man, how you were able to really get that implemented and get it in place and get it to the governor's desk. I mean, in almost record time too.
Yeah, the first year I spent the year focusing on it. The first session we filed it, we passed it. So yeah, that's very, very unusual.
Yeah.
Very unusual. So I think your listeners will find this pretty interesting. Because sometimes we just get to talking about just the content of bills and things we did, which
Right.
this is a very, very big deal.
Yeah.
And I really encourage folks to follow me at www.senatorbrianwilliams.com and get updates, because that's far more in depth than we would have time for today. But this process is something I think a lot of people should hear about. So last year, the governor called a special session. And during that special session, he wanted to tackle violent crime in the city of St. Louis. And he proposed removing the residency for St. Louis City police officers. He wanted to expand a witness protection program, and he wanted to start charging young people as early or as young as the age of 12 as adults for committing violent crimes. And I was strongly opposed to that, which is no surprise. But I asked the governor, I said, well, if you want to take up these things in a special session, how about we expand the call to take up police reform? And we can start figuring out not only how we tackle violent crime, but how do we build the trust in the community to figure out who the bad actors are.
Right.
Because right now, folks in the community are afraid to talk to law enforcement because they're concerned that they may become victims in the process. And the governor decided that it was best to take it up in January during the regular session and not the special session. We ended up, the Senate and legislature, which I did not support, ended up removing the residency requirement for the city of St. Louis, expanding the witness protection program, and lowering the age for kids to be charged as adults to 12. I came back in January after spending a year traveling around the entire state, talking to folks in Springfield, Missouri, Jefferson City, Columbia, Kansas City, St. Louis, of course, Cape Girardeau, meeting with police chiefs, activists, advocates, ACLU, National Association of Social Workers, prosecutors, judges, and brought together a stakeholder group that we could say, hey, we need to have a serious conversation about how we move forward around police reform, criminal justice reform, and policing as a whole. And the first question that they asked me was, well, Senator, what do you know about policing? And I said, well, I've never served in law enforcement, but what I do know is George Floyd could have easily been me.
Absolutely.
And I don't want what happened to George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or any other senseless death at the hands of law enforcement to happen here in the state of Missouri. I don't want to see the breakdown that happened between the police and the community that I grew up in and represent now, Ferguson, to ever have to I don't want residents in our community to ever have to relive that again.
Right.
So we started working through the process, days of disagreement, agreements, and we finally got to a place where we agreed on some very strong progressive police reforms that would make policing better, but would also work towards criminal justice reform areas to allow people to be able to re-enter back into society, and then put really our criminal justice system in a place where it's fair and equitable, and it's just not sending people who are Black or under or not privileged in a lot of ways to prison, potentially for crimes that they didn't even commit.
Right.
So we ended up filing a bill. I went to one of my Republican colleagues. They wanted to remove the residency in Kansas City, which I said, I know you guys are going to focus on this police issue of removing the residency. If you guys move forward with this, which they can do that, being in the supermajority, right, I said we need to move forward with my reforms. So what we did was we wrote both bills together in what's called a Senate committee substitute.
Okay.
And it basically would say, if my bill die, your bill die. If your bill moves forward, my bill moves forward. And we basically locked it there. And we had to work through the process. We got so many different people on board. I serve as the leader of the Black Caucus in the Missouri Senate. All Black state senators became co-sponsors. We were able to get provisions in that bill from members of the legislature that had been working on priorities towards criminal justice reform for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. So it was people that were able to get priorities that had never been able to get done by us allowing them to put that as a provision within our bill. And then we ultimately got hands down one of the most comprehensive police reform bills across the finish line the day before the last day of session, and the governor signed it 3 weeks ago.
Wow. And collaboration, man, is so important, man. And the collaboration that happened on that bill, man, was amazing. Just imagine if we get that same type of collaboration on more bills, man.
We got it just in general. And one thing I'll tell you, Terry, that we got to keep in mind is that with this bill, it's going to actually have an impact on people day one. We added a provision with the motion to vacate, which would now allow our local prosecutors like Wesley Bell to provide significant evidence to the courts to be able to have a case retried like Lamar Johnson, who has been in prison now for over 2 decades for a crime that he may not have committed. We've also added a provision which would take the age from 12 back to 18 for a young person to be tried as an adult. And they would not be allowed to be housed in an adult jail. They would be in juvenile detention with their peers. We've also, with this bill, was able to make sure that women who are in correctional facilities have access to feminine products, which they did not prior to this bill going into law, for free. It's so many different things that we were able to do with this bill that I'm so proud of. But again, to be able to do that in a super minority legislature, when I told people what we were focusing on and what my goal was with this, they said it was nothing short of impossible. And to be able to get that across the finish line and have my name on the bill as a Democrat in the state of Missouri is by far a very humbling and rewarding experience.
Man, that's amazing, man. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back. If you're just tuning in, we're having a conversation with Senator Brian Williams from the 14th District of the great state of Missouri. We'll be right back with the Politics Podcast.
This is the Hip Hop Gardener from Blackberry Landscaping. And when I'm ever listening to an app or podcast shows, I'm listening to the hottest show in the loop, the Politics Podcast, your home for St. Louis politics.
You better ask somebody.
What up, St. Louis? This your committee man, Farrakhan Shegog. You tuned into Politics Podcast, your home for St. Louis politics.
it's your favorite Ladybug, and you're tuned into the hottest show in the Lou, the Politics Podcast, your home for St. Louis politics.
You better ask somebody.
You're tuned in to the Politics Podcast, your home for St. Louis politics. What's up, St. Louis? We are back. And if you're just tuning in, we're having a great conversation with my friend, my brother, the senator from the 14th District, Brian Williams. What's going on, Brian? Man, we're having a great conversation, man. I'm really enjoying how you're explaining the process because this is the part that folks don't really hear about, man, and it's very important. And that's one of my goals I set out when creating this platform, man, to really educate our people on what's going on so people have understanding. You know, a lot of people, they'll see something that happened in the news with an elected official or a bill that passed or a law that passed, but they don't really have an understanding of how it got there, or it's an issue right now that's not being taken care of, and they're not understanding the process of how to fix those issues, man. And I appreciate you explaining, and I appreciate all my past guests that have come on and did the same thing as well. So we appreciate you. And I just want to remind everybody, you can check out the Politics Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Podbean, and you're tuned in right now live on Facebook and YouTube. I hope everybody's enjoying your Sunday today. So, Brian, we were having a discussion about how you were able to collaborate on this monumental bill, and you got it across the finish line. Let me ask you a question, man. You know, you've really hit the ground running. And when I say you hit the ground running, man, you got up there and you wasn't playing no games, Brian. You got elected, and you said, hey, I'm going to work. I'm going to work for the people of not only the state of Missouri, but especially St. Louis, the St. Louis region. And you've been definitely proving yourself, man. And one thing I really like, that you make sure you inform us of everything that's going on and everything that's about to come up. And speaking of that, you and Kevin Windham, State Rep Kevin Windham, you all just had a town hall. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We had a town hall at UMSL.
Yeah.
So
kind of talk about what went on at the town hall and what was the purpose of the town hall, and did you think you got the point across and got some good feedback at that town hall?
Well, it was first. I was grateful to have UMSL as a partner, and clearly Representative Kevin Windham, who represents that part of the region within the Senate district, coming and joining me. We gave them a legislative update, and we also streamed it. So this we'll make sure that we provide you with the information to be able to look at it on YouTube for those who couldn't catch it. But we streamed it. We had folks that attended, clearly socially distanced and wore masks. And we were talking about something that I think needs to be the sole conversation right now for our communities and our region and our state. Basically, I grew up in North St. Louis County. You grew up in North County. We see where the communities that are always coming in last, the communities that are underserved when it comes to providing resources. North County, which is one of the largest populations of Black people in the state, is always the last community to see any type of investment. So what we want to do is we want to start investing in North County. And right now we are looking at the federal relief funding that has been appropriated to our state through the Biden administration. The state of Missouri is going to receive in this already half of it, $2 billion. St. Louis County is going to get $200 million, which they've gotten half already. And then the city of St. Louis is getting $517 million. There's no reason why we should not be talking about how do we revitalize North St. Louis City and County. And that's what we're focused on. Right now, we discussed a potential opportunity which would create a funding model that we believe could be tremendous for this region. It allows us to break out of our silos and fiefdoms and really start taking a regional approach to how we provide resources and invest in our communities. So I'll be calling on the municipalities as well as St. Louis County in the state to create a matching funds mechanism to work towards infrastructure and capital improvement projects. And basically, what this looks like, for example, UMSL. UMSL is looking to consolidate its campus. So they're going to be moving a lot of their students from the South Campus, which is south on Natural Bridge, to the north side, which is the northern side of Natural Bridge, to the main campus. That's about 40 acres that can be prime for development. We're talking about healthy foods, a grocery store, a healthcare facility. It could be countless things there that we could have developed there to benefit North County, where folks do not have to leave their community to have access to quality things. This is something that can be huge for our community. And that's why we held the town hall to get community input to where we are really focused on some of the things that our neighbors think would be good and that they would like to see in their backyard. And it's not just right there in Normandy. We're looking at communities like Jennings, where we'll be talking with Jennings mayor, who's a phenomenal mayor and leader in this region. We're going to be talking to the city of Ferguson and the mayor there and Delwood and so many different communities where we have so many great municipal leaders that have that deserve to not only have quality investment in their communities, but we need to have that commitment coming from multiple levels of government. And it needs to be a lot more than we have ever invested before. And we need to make sure our communities are a lot stronger after the pandemic than it was prior to the pandemic even starting.
Absolutely, man. And regionalism is what we need to be focused on. A few years ago, we had this big ordeal about mergers and all of that stuff. But I think once we figure out a way to come to the table to say, hey, how can we work together? Because at the end of the day, if Jennings is doing well and Ferguson is not, then North County is not doing well. We need to make sure that everybody is doing well, and we need to have those conversations. And I'm glad that you guys provided that space to start the conversation because, in the past, a lot of funding has come down, but there's never really been any conversation around it, any planning around it, any collaboration around it. And I'm glad that you are, taking the lead on making sure that we start those types of conversations. And of course, there's other folks having the conversations, but I think it's very important that we bring it all together at the table together to see how it all affects us and how we can all benefit from it. Because we definitely don't want this money to be one of those one-offs where we just throw some money at something. It definitely needs to be something that is sustainable, something that is changing, life-changing for our communities. We need to move past the one-offs and the one program here and the one program there. We need to invest in something that's sustainable, man. And I'm glad to see, organizations working with government, such as the Urban League and Beyond Housing and other regional organizations that are coming together to help bring that change that you and I want to see in our communities, man. So
it requires partners, and I think that's one thing folks have to understand.
Yeah.
My style of governing goes back to one thing my grandmother always stressed to me, and she always made it clear that no one gets anywhere by themselves.
Right. Absolutely.
And we need everyone, all hands on deck. Everybody needs to be a part of this process to community, creating a group of stakeholders who understand what the challenges are in our community, especially the underserved parts of the community. And keep this in mind, Terry, the Senate district that I represent, I have communities like Clayton and Ladue, University City, and then I go through North County and take in Jennings and Pine Lawn and Ferguson, Hazelwood, Florissant, and go all the way to St. Charles County. So I'm very intentional about revitalizing North St. Louis.
Yeah. Absolutely.
In particular, North St. Louis County. I make it very clear to my constituents on the southern part of the district that we need to be all committed to addressing the most challenged areas. And right now, North St. Louis should be getting full attention when it comes to how we spend this, just unprecedented amount of federal funding.
Absolutely. And, I had conversations with my friends in St. Charles and South County. I got a lot of friends out that way. And I always tell them, I say, hey, if North County wins, we all win. If we take care of North County, we all win. So let's move aside from policy a little bit, and so you're not considered a new senator anymore because you're up for re-election next year.
Yeah, in the world of term limits, I'm a senior state senator now.
Absolutely. So
I've been a state senator now for 2.5 years.
Right. So what would you say now that you are a state senator and got your feet wet and been in some couple of brawls, political brawls, and had some wins? What would you say has been your biggest challenge since being a senator?
I'll say probably the biggest challenge is I think sometimes we underestimate just how much time goes into doing the job. Serving in the Missouri Senate is a part-time job, but it's full-time responsibility. Right. I have to go to Jefferson City 4 to 5 days a week, more than half the year. I have to maintain a home in 2 different places, clearly here in St. Louis and then in Jefferson City. We work very long hours in the Missouri Senate. Sometimes we work overnight until 6, 7 o'clock the next morning. So it's a very, very just draining and challenging job. And then you still have to be able to be there for your family and still be able to do all the things that's required to survive as a person. I think sometimes, folks view elected officials as kind of being exempt from having to pay bills and having to, take care of their kids and their family. And, people get sick, and we run into all of the same issues and challenges that the people we serve do. So I think that's probably one of the most interesting but challenging parts of the job is just really trying to maintain that balance of your personal life and still, doing your job at the highest level possible. And I can tell you right now, any elected official that's exhausted and ask themselves, how did I get myself into this situation? I guarantee you those are the people that are serving their communities at a very, very high level. And it's really good sometimes to see, the fruits of your labor and that ultimately where people or their quality of lives are being benefited and clearly enhanced.
Man, you're everywhere. Every time I look up, Brian Williams is everywhere in the community, man. How do you prioritize where you go in your district? How do you, it's almost like you magical or something, man. you got a clone or something, man. How do you actually prioritize your schedule and your activities within the district?
Right. So there's 2 pieces that I think that needs to be acknowledged. One, man, I have the best family in the world that's so supportive to me and that really allow me to be the best leader I can, whether it's, my mom or my grandmother. There's just so many people that play an important role in my village that help me keep things together at home and, and I can focus on just being a good leader. The other part is, I have an amazing staff, my scheduler, my executive assistant, they tremendous. I have a phenomenal chief of staff. And they're very intentional about just things that they know are important to the region and the district, things our communities need, but also things that are important to me. So they understand what I want to focus on. So a lot of things, man, really, I'm never going to turn down an opportunity to meet and mentor and talk to kids. I'm never going to turn down an opportunity to go and sit and hear from our seniors. And then I'm never going to turn down an opportunity to be in the community with people and remind them that, is people that represent them and they care about them. So, man, I think just that drive is what really just kind of motivate me to really manage my time, and I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
But the other side too, man, is like, don't, let's just be real about it. Man, I serve with some really phenomenal people. I go to Jennings and Mayor Austin and even you, Councilman, y'all support me in a way where that makes my job so much easier. So to have so many people, who supported me initially, and then now see that I'm doing the work and support me now, to be there for me and want me to be in their spaces and let me know what's happening in their communities, man, that's probably the priceless part. Yeah. I think a lot of people look at politics and they see how divisive it is. Yeah. But man, when I tell you working together is so much more powerful than working by yourself. And, when I move on and do something different, I want to move on and do something different with some friends.
Absolutely.
And the only way that happens is by, being there for your community and really supporting other leaders the way you want them to support you.
Absolutely. Man, it's one question that I ask everybody that come on the show, man. So you got to get asked the question too.
Oh, okay.
I want to see if you answer it right, because so
I'm gonna try.
So out of all my guests, I think 60% of my guests answered it exactly how I asked. So I'm gonna make sure I'm clear, because I'm like, maybe I'm not asking it right, but I always get a comment in the comments of the shows like, they didn't answer that right. So we gonna see if Senator answers the question right. And the question that I have is, in 5 words, what does good governance look like?
In 5 words, what good governance looks like, I would say consistent, reliable, transparent, unwavering, and I'll probably say the 5th one is thoughtful.
Wow. Hey, Senator, you did it. Hey, like I told the other guests, I said, I ain't asked for an explanation. I said in 5 words, what does good governance look like? And your last one was thoughtful, and I could tell you're very thoughtful with your answers, man. And
It's important.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, man. You definitely answered it, man. So, man, I have really enjoyed you coming on the show, man, and I hope this isn't the last time. But if you have some final words for the Politics Podcast audience, this is your time to end it off. And make sure you let everybody know where they can find you as well. So we're going to give you the last few minutes to end us off, man. And we appreciate you coming in.
Hey, absolutely. One, I want to say thank you again for having me, and thanks again, sincerely, for your friendship. I think right now, the only thing I really want folks to know is that it's times that our community, our state, and our country seem just deeply divided, especially after watching cable news 24/7. But I truly believe there's more that really unites our community and our state than divide us. So, when you're talking about revamping our communities, protecting Black lives, access to quality healthcare, things like criminal justice reform, ensuring that our unhoused population have quality and affordable housing. Those shouldn't be partisan positions. They truly should be common goals that we all share. So, I'm very grateful to serve this great state and this community in the Missouri Senate. And, I'm proud of the things we've been able to do. And I'm looking forward to us all coming together and getting more things done in the future.
Well, Brian Williams, Senator Brian Williams, man, we appreciate you tuning in, man. How can everybody find you on social media and websites and all of that stuff? Where can they find you at? Is it everything Brian Williams?
Everything Brian Williams, but no, I can be reached at my website, www.senatorbrianwilliams.com. Again, that's www.senatorbrianwilliams.com. All one word. You can go there. Please sign up so you can get updates, and we'll keep you posted on what's happening in the community, what's happening in the legislature. I can also be found on Facebook, Brian Williams from Missouri. And then on Twitter, this Brian Williams, MO, and that MO is from Missouri.
Well, there you go, folks. We got another show in the books. Another good guest that hopped on. I know he's going to be back. Election time is coming up next year. It came by so fast. But he's a great friend of mine, whether he's running for office or not. He's always welcome on the Politics Podcast, the hottest show in the Lou. Make sure you check us out on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube, Facebook. You can catch us everywhere. So it's no excuse to not find the Politics Podcast. And we'll see you on next Sunday. Peace.